This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
This is Everything Elite, the world's best podcast devoted exclusively to all elite wrestling and the elite extended universe. I'm Aaron Bentley, and I am joined, as always, by my good friend, Mike Spears. What's up, Mike?
Hey, y'all. It's your old pal, Iron Mike Spears. I am right now hating life because sun comes down here in the foothills at like 5 o'clock, and I wonder why anyone lives much further north than you do, AB. It's real seasonal affective or hours this week, I feel like.
Yeah, feeling some real seasonal depression today. It's excellent. I'm very irritable, so that's good. That's what happens when I get depressed, so I'm excited. I'm sure this is going to be fun. We are also joined by Nate, a.k.a. Epitasis. What's up, Nate?
Hey, fellas. It gets dark at like 4 p.m. here pretty much. Like by the time I leave the office, it's like basically pitch black out and usually snowy or rainy. So I don't want to hear any complaints from you guys in your more tropical climes. But I'm doing pretty well. Friend of the show, Ariana Grande endorsed Bernie, so that was good. She's on board. ACH is free, so that's great. Best Wrestler 2018. And I won an Xbox today. That's a nice little treat for your Thursday morning.
You lived Moss, so I'm proud of you.
I lived Moss hard on Moss.
I don't have anything to add to that. It's just when people say Liv Moss, it makes me think of Dave Grohl on Ink Master.
Dave Navarro.
Dave Navarro.
Dave Grohl,
before,
he doesn't have to do bits about living Moss because he really does live Moss.
That's true. He hangs out with John Kerry on this tour bus. So very cool.
I don't think now.
No, but he did that one time. All right.
Is that the first thing you think of when you think of Dave Grohl? Not like, oh, he was in Nirvana.
No. So I had this, I hated the Foo Fighters for probably a decade or more.
You would.
I had this thought of so my real connection to Dave Grohl was seeing him on seeing him on Nirvana Unplugged, and he's got the big turtleneck and the ponytail. And then Foo Fighters came out and you see Learn to Fly video. And I'm like, okay, this is not the same dude. This guy sucks. He sold out to do pop music to make a bunch of money. And
fun. Dude, he's goofing around with his friends, Jack Black and Kyle Gass.
Yeah. So I hated that for a long time.
Ugh.
And then at some point I got into Foo Fighters. I was like, oh yeah, these songs are good. So, and then you learn that he was kind of always goofy. He was just trying to fit in, I think, with Kurt.
Your new visual touchstone, I'll send you the video, is his Fresh Pots video, where he's in the studio freaking out about Fresh Pots of coffee. I had one of my best friends from high school, had a eerie resemblance to Dave Grohl, and then he grew his hair out long and he got the big gauged ears and everything. He just really leaned into looking exactly like Dave Grohl. So he's a big meme in our group of high school friends.
Love it. But yeah, now when I think about Dave Grohl, it's basically him claiming that the In Your Honor album was about John Kerry.
I didn't know that.
I think I missed that entirely. I mean, In Your Honor was pretty much where I got out on Foo Fighters. Nothing past that point. Yeah,
he said there was a big Rolling Stone interview or whatever, and he's like, yeah, John Kerry was on tour with us, and I just started writing these songs, and he's a hero and all this stuff.
It was a different time. During the John Kerry campaign, I went to see John Mellencamp, Indiana boy, live on the Vote for Change tour. It was John Mellencamp and Kenneth Babyface Edmonds, right? And they were literally
Indiana, so
pro-Bush protesters outside the concert venue with signs "Duh, you're going to see a concert about John Kerry." Imagine taking time out of your day to protest a concert in favor of the sitting U.S. president.
Yeah, brutal.
It's amazing.
I was a very just embarrassing person when John Kerry was running for president. So Let's move on from that.
We were considerably younger, and it was a different environment. I think it's okay.
Yeah, we all made really bad political decisions in our youth.
Like voting for John Kerry. That was one of them.
I mean,
yeah.
Again, we were like, we kind of get a pass. We were like barely of voting age.
I don't know if it's more embarrassing that I was like very into John Kerry once he was the nominee, or that I supported John Edwards in the. I guess that was in 08. I was a Howard Dean guy in 04, like all of us, I think.
Well, I mean, how couldn't you be?
Right. And then I was a big John Edwards guy in 08.
Yeah. In 04, this is before my political development, like my political consciousness. So
going to be good.
Oh yeah, I voted Libertarian in 04. I lived in Texas. My vote literally could not matter less unless I lived in California or New York. And at that time, this was also the same time period where disgraced Congressman Joe Barton called me an anarchist from my whole entire high school. So, oh yeah, no, straight up.
We have to get to that story sometime.
Great Mike Spears lore.
Oh, I dropped these like 1 or 2 lines there, but yeah, no. So yeah, 04 was really early in my political development, but yeah, John Edwards in 08, or like 08 before, like all the crazy stuff, and then Obama like this. Like we all had really like dumb political developments.
I drove like 2 hours once to see John Edwards speak after the shit came out about him cheating on his wife who had cancer. Brutal.
I mean, you've got a penchant for driving long distances for whatever.
Real making towns guy.
Oh, I love to make towns.
Making towns for JE.
JRE, that's right. I was thinking we should do a Patreon bonus show where we review the Making Towns Classic. What do you guys think?
Could do that, although that's sort of a hot topic politically again because of the winner of the Making Towns Classic.
Oh, that's right. Oh, so it actually really fits.
Making Towns.
It fits for our
that
show.
That could be a failed episode of This Was
Kylie Ray. So good. All right. Whew. If you want to hear more about Mike's voting in 2004 and earlier, actually, I don't know, Mike, you probably couldn't vote before 2004, right? You didn't vote in the 2000 presidential.
No. Yeah. I turned 18 in 2004.
I was big into making T-shirts when I was in high school. Like,
this will be good.
Write on T-shirts and just wear them to school. And on the day of the 2000 election, I wrote on a T-shirt, "Don't blame me. I would have voted for Ralph Nader."
Yeah, I was that kid too. I was that guy too. Yeah, right on.
Okay, so if you want more of these musings, you can follow us on Twitter at everythingaew. I'm at Aaron like the car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. That's Fuji with 2 eyes, like Don Fuji. Subscribe to this podcast, folks. You can find us by searching Everything Elite on the podcast app of your choice or through the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. If you're listening on the podcast app, give us a 5-star rating and a review. And make sure you are subscribing at patreon.com/everythingelite. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. First, let me tell you what else we're going to do on this show. We're going to do Elite or Delete, as we always do. We're going to run down Dynamite, talk about the ratings. We got some business notes on Full Gear that we'll get into. And we will be detailing forum poster Tony Khan and what he got into this week. So before we get into that, I'm not going to give you the whole spiel on our Patreon. Again, if you've been listening the last 2 weeks, you've heard about it. But I do want to tell you what's on there this week, or what's been on there so far. We're 2 weeks strong this far. This week, we did the Aarons. On Monday, Aaron Taub and I got back together to do a fun show, mostly about bullshit. But we did review an Evolve match, a WWN match. So you're going to want to check that out. We talked a lot about what Aaron Taub has been up to over the past year. And, we did some classic talk about the labor situation in pro wrestling. Mike and I have done 2 episodes of AEW Light, which is a little Dynamite preview on Wednesday mornings. We talk about Dark on that show too. And we brought some real heat this week, to be honest, because we kind of nailed everything that happened on Dynamite. I'm usually wrong about everything.
Hey, it's something that happens. We were dead on about Adam Page being a great Battle Royal wrestler. That was straight up that. And then Hikaru Shida talked about post-match how this was like a rankings match and a title eliminator. So we were 2 for 2 on AEW Light. And for $3 a month, you can get our great previews. So check it out.
That's right. And so far this month, We've done the 2 episodes of Light. We did a Full Gear Instant Reaction. I did 2 hours about Cody Rhodes' career with Rich Kraetsch, and we did the errands, which I told you about. And Mike and I have dropped some nerdy ass podcasts, so check those out. This coming week, Mike is going to be dropping something that I've heard a little bit of, and it is very cool. It's called Breaking Strong Hearts. It's the first episode of Breaking Strong Hearts, and it's going to be telling you about the formation of OWE. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I've been putting this together over the last week, and it's going to be different. You know, if you're someone who's used to like standard timeline shows or like historical wrestling shows, this isn't exactly that. It is something that I kind of wanted to stretch my wings a little bit, and I'm excited for folks to hear it. I'm conducting a discussion tomorrow, and then it'll be up on Monday. So yeah, that's a great show, and I'm really stoked to be putting it together.
AEW roster members and staff, you can subscribe anonymously via Patreon. So, don't feel nervous about us seeing on there, your shoot email address. Just a little FYI.
That's right. And we've had a great response so far. I'm very excited. We've already gone past what I was hoping for in the first month. And so we just hope to keep providing excellent content and get some new subscribers. So that's it for the Patreon. It's patreon.com/everythingelite. There are $3, $5, and $8 tiers. So check out, see what you're interested in, and please join us. I do want to remind you that if you subscribe now, you will be charged on the day you subscribe, and then you'll be charged on the first of the month going forward. So just want that to be up front. Ratings time. Let's talk ratings. For the first time, folks, this is a sad day in the ratings discussions. For the first time, NXT comes out on top of AEW. AEW did 893,000. That's down from 957,000 last week. They were 8th in the demo, down from 5th, a 0.43, which was exactly the same demo that they did last week, I believe. Mike's looking around, so I might have fucked that up.
Nope, they were at 0.39 last week. Or they're at 0.39 this week. They were at 0.43.
Oh,
they went down.
Okay.
Yep, they are down 4/400th of a rating point.
See, I'm bad at reading, but 0.39, so down a little bit. NXT put up 916,000, jumped up to 14th in the demo at a 0.30, which was up from a 0.25. So up a little bit for NXT and up quite a bit for NXT, really. Down a little bit for AEW. Let's get those takes. Well, I guess let's start here. NXT shoved a bunch of Raw people on here, so you would expect that to go up. That's not really a big deal. But are we worried that AEW is dropping again?
No, not really. Not really worried about. They probably drew some AEW viewers over to NXT. My only take really was my take last week was that AEW withstood NXT's best shot when they had the original famous authentic, sincere, fake Bullet Club invade. And it just turns out that wasn't NXT's best shot yet because they threw even more shit against the wall, had literally everybody invade the show from Raw and SmackDown, and did yet another ladder match. So they, I thought that was their best shot. Turns out they had not yet emptied the barrel, and they just dumped the whole barrel out. So, they didn't beat him by that much. Really, what I thought was interesting was that WWE was very careful not to explicitly advertise who was going to be there. They didn't go, hey, Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins is going to be there. And I think they probably did that because they thought it was possible that they would advertise Seth Rollins and they would still lose to AEW, and that would be a black eye. So that's very amusing to me. That's my only take.
So something that needs to be said is AEW still won every single demo except for the boomers, including the only demo that matters for advertisers. And they won it by 900ths of a point. So they still, people saying oh yeah, this happened. When you go to ad buyers and the networks, they'll be okay, that's the overall figure. But then they're going to look at, okay, AEW had 0.39, 18 to 49. That's just a drop of 400th of a point. And then you take a look at the rest of their demos, they did a lot better with the drop with the men 18 to 49, women 18 to 49. There was a drop, as is the 12 to 34. So I look at this and how Nate said, we thought they already unloaded the clip. really, there's only 4 names left that actually matter in WWE that could show up in Full Sail, which they're staying in 2020. Like, let's get that out there. That's something. But they just have Roman Reigns, John Cena, Daniel Bryan, Hulk Hogan, and The Rock. So 5 names. And 2 of those names aren't ever going to show up at Full Sail. And Hogan, I don't think matters if it shows up to Full Sail. So if this is their best shot, it's their best shot. It's also their go home show. So I feel like that when you look at everything kind of taken out a whole, I feel better about this week than like that one week where that it was like the 7,000 viewer difference, to be honest. And you could say that I'm like spinning tails or I'm trying to spin this, but when you just like look at the numbers aren't as stark as that. So that's kind of what I take away from it.
Seems to me this is embarrassing for WWE generally. I mean, they put Seth Rollins, their top guy, on their show, and they got a nice bump, but they're still barely beating AEW. So it's just sad that they keep trying to do like basically trying to hotshot this into a big number, and they just really can't get there.
It's very amusing to me, and I like it a lot. Like I have heard people be like, "Oh, what do you care about the ratings war? It's very silly. It makes people make irrational decisions, and they're going to start booking to win the week instead of booking to, put on a good wrestling show or build toward the future." And again, we have not seen that with AEW. They keep doing their show. They, spent significant time this week on Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida, who are not, draws in the level of John Moxley or Kenny Omega. There was no Cody on this show. There was no Matt Jackson on this show. Like, they're just doing their thing. They're building, toward next week in Chicago. And NXT is the one that's hot-shotting everything and doing a ladder match every week. And that's funny to me. I enjoy it. I like seeing WWE go full bad part of WCW.
Yeah, it's very funny that like this is what WCW did to win the week-to-week ratings. And WWF eventually jumped on the same boat, but they weren't originally. But it's just funny that Vince learned nothing from the Monday Night Wars. Not that this has the same stakes, but it's still very funny.
I mean, he might have learned something and then forgotten it because he's sundowning.
That's true. Interesting note from last week's Wrestling Observer. I don't think the new one is out yet. So from the most recent episode or version of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave basically says that what he understands from people who are studying the minute-by-minute Wednesday audiences is that basically NXT viewership goes up when AEW goes to a commercial. And when AEW ends, NXT goes up. So it looks like AEW viewers are willing to flip to NXT when there's nothing happening on AEW, but NXT viewers are not willing to watch AEW at all. So I think that's interesting. It kind of jives with, well, I don't know, our bubble. I see some people jumping over or watching both, but I don't see your brainworms, WWE people, even giving AEW a shot.
Yeah, I think that supports my sort of guess at the rating. I think putting all those people on promising big angles and promising, first time matchups between main roster and NXT people probably pulled AEW people over to NXT for the evening. So I don't think it's a sign that the sky is falling and that, AEW is losing interest at this point. We're still, I think, sort of at that stable 950,000 to 1 million range.
And if there's like one or other thing kind of picking back off of this is every week NXT has an overrun and AEW always goes off air at 10 p.m. Eastern. So I'm looking at our spreadsheet right now, and it's usually 8 to 9 minutes extra that AEW fans could have massively switched over. So what happens when we get the quarterlies that are going to be in the Wrestling Observer newsletter and you take out that last quarter? I mean, that's probably a more realistic depiction of the show because they were only head to head for 2 hours. And when you take that out there, I mean, that's a 50,000 difference. I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility that you had enough people to switch over for the last 9 minutes of NXT to shift that balance. Like, I don't think I'm being ridiculous or being biased when I say that. So it's interesting to see, like, as you're saying, like it might also go with like the age range of the fans, that AEW fans are more willing to watch whatever in their mind is the best wrestling at the very moment. And, your older NXT, WWE brainworm people just want to watch WWE NXT. So they're not going to give it another shot. So I don't know. It's interesting.
I think boomers shouldn't, their votes shouldn't count and their television ratings shouldn't count. I think that's fair.
That's fair. If you want to see that spreadsheet, by the way, that has all the info and all the ratings from every week right next to each other, it's available on our Patreon, patreon.com/everythingelite for $5 subscribers. So there you go. Now it's time for the game sweeping the nation. It's Elite or Delete. If you are new to the show, basically we go through, we'll make one Elite pick, one Delete pick a piece. Basically what was something we really liked from the show, something we really didn't like from this week's episode of Dynamite. Nate, I'm going to come to you first. Give me your Elite pick of this week.
All right, I'm going to keep it on the board. Stop trying to outsmart or outmaneuver you guys. Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin, your main event. Fantastic fucking match. Just delivered in every way. They set it up with the big ring introduction from Justin Roberts at the beginning. You just see the extra effort that I absolutely love to see, and that makes it feel like it's a special event and worth tuning in. They had a whole video package of Darby and his Mox spray-painted body bag, skateboarding, crowd surfing at a concert, just extremely badass. And then the match delivered big time. You got great character moments from each guy. You got, Darby diving out of the ring with his whole fucking body into Jon Moxley. You got him diving at Jon Moxley and Jon Moxley just no-selling it off the crossbody and, using his size to his advantage and just, basically crushing him in the ring. Just fantastic match. Like I've said a million times, Darby actually wrestles to his size. He makes you believe, even though he's a small guy, that he's using all of his momentum and all of his fearlessness to throw his body into the other guy and use the technical skills when appropriate, or use his, just willingness to destroy himself when appropriate to try and get the win. And it was fucking awesome. And Darby's a huge star, and Jon Moxley's the established star. So I loved it.
It slapped. It ruled. The great thing about this promotion is they understand Darby's value and they let Darby be Darby. And having a match like this, we saw how things were before and after the Jericho defense, right, guys? Now we see what it's going to be like with this match, and then what's going to be like afterwards. He's a made man. There's people with the half corpse paint in the crowd, and it's just everyone loves Darby Allin. He's going to be a legend. So how can't you love a match like this that was very simple but well effective? And I mean, Jesus Christ, that coffin drop into the rear naked choke just ruled. And then it just was they understood the right moments and how to use Darby and how to actually make Jon Moxley look like a monster. So that ruled a whole lot too. So it was a great match. If Nate didn't pick this, I feel like each one of us was going to probably pick this match. So I just wanted to get my 2 cents in on that match before we move on.
Yeah. Great finish and looked tremendous. And I also just wanted to, a lot of people were like, oh, they made Darby a star in this Jericho match. Then he disappeared from TV for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Oh, they're totally blowing it. No, they made the crowd miss Darby, and then they got up big for the next Darby appearance, and he delivered again. Just very refreshing that we don't have Darby out here cutting promos backstage, against a backdrop week in and week out, or coming out and wrestling, nothing matches week in and week out. And instead we can when we want to focus on him, we bring him in and put him on TV and make him a huge star. And then when it's not his time, they make the crowd and the viewers miss him.
Yeah, Darby does main events only, folks. He's not showing up.
Offer only. That's
right. He was great. This is an example of a guy losing a match and coming out better than he went into it. It was done perfectly. Moxley was a perfect opponent for him. Moxley, I'm sure, loved getting to work with Darby because he's willing to just do anything. And in a spot that could have really hurt Darby, where Darby flings himself off the top rope and Mox just completely no-sells it, it worked because Mox is, a fucking crazy dude. So I don't know. The whole thing was great. Darby didn't get very much offense in and still was super over, and it gives him somewhere to progress from. So yeah, everything was good about it.
this is like, I've always said you can beat the shit out of Darby and he's going to get over it by beating the shit out of him. But I'm impressed that they've been having literally the biggest stars, Cody and Moxley and Jericho be the guys beating the shit out of him. So it just works to that extra degree. I mean, he took a loss to Shawn Spears. That was a mistake, but he's losing to top stars. He's just going to get more over every week. And then at some point you pull the trigger and you have him start getting miracle wins. Then you have him start getting earned wins. And then you make him the top champion of your company.
All right, Mike, your pick for this week?
So my pick is the opener, Nick Jackson versus Phoenix. That match, it's been something that they've focused so much on the Lucha Brothers as an act rather than letting these two guys do their own thing. And it just was like a reminder that Phoenix is one of the best 25 wrestlers in the world right now. And he just has a certain way with himself in this match. And Nick held up his end of the deal too. And it just was a great opening sprint. You had Phoenix do probably the most devastating Senton Atomico I've ever seen in my life, where he just landed flat, heavy on Nick Jackson and that rolled. And it just was a great, brutal style of a high flying juniors match. So I thought this match was great. This is the kind of matches that I love for them to start Dynamite out with. Like, it makes you think about Young Bucks versus Private Party. Like, whenever they start a show with a match that's just hot out of the gates, it always gets me amped up. And I think that's something that they should really focus on doing. It's like, okay, each week we're going to have a hot match to start. We're not going to have Jon Moxley versus Michael Nakazawa every week. We're not going to have Sammy Guevara versus Hangman Page. As I go through my notes, we are going to have Private Party versus Lucha Brothers. But you basically, when you start off a crowd like this, and points to Indy, awesome crowd again. Like, they have not had a really bad crowd, I guess, really, except for Baltimore. So this is a great match, and I think it's something that I would be super happy if we get some separation between Penta and Phoenix going forward, just because imagine having Phoenix versus Chris Jericho. What kind of weird match can that be? That's something that wasn't even on my mind before last night's episode, and now I'm kind of intrigued to see what could happen here. So I love this match, and it's a match that gets you in a good mood to watch a night of wrestling, and I thought that they did a great job with that.
Yeah, badass match. Seeing Nick Jackson in a singles role does make you appreciate how good he is more than you do otherwise. Like, I've been saying for a while, the Young Bucks are, you forget how good they are, and then they just have a blowaway match, and it's like, oh yeah, they're extremely good. Like, you take for granted how good they are. So it's just nice to see that in like a fresh context, because then you go, oh yeah, now I can more readily appreciate Nick's particular talent at this or this or this. They did that spot at the beginning where they did the whole indie standoff, but they did all of it on the outside of the ring and on the apron and then sliding into the ring, which is just, I've seen a million Phoenix matches in my life. Like, AEW was like his home promotion for a period of like 2 years. And, that's something I've never seen before. So that was badass. And I think what was also really smart about that, and on your point, Mike, is they had Pentagon in the Battle Royal on this show, but basically eliminated him immediately for the purposes of an angle. But what was smart was they still brought him back for dark and gave the fans a singles Pentagon match as well. So great to see them using both Phoenix and Pentagon in both roles, because they're both like big single stars in addition to being an awesome tag team.
My elite pick, the merciful end of the Britt Baker push. It's over, folks. We survived. We made it. Hikaru Shida beat Britt Baker, and Britt Baker will not be challenging for the title, at least for now. And hopefully this is a sign that maybe they'll let Britt get a little seasoning before they try to push her back to the top. It strikes me that, and this is all headcanon, but it strikes me that there was a real battle between Brandy and Kenny for who was going to be driving this division. And it's clear that Kenny has won, and he is making the decisions now, I think. And I mean, we didn't mention it.
There's a lot of headcanon, I feel.
Well, no, but we didn't mention. So, let's go back. Brandy,
I know that's
talking on Road 2s about how she's running this women's division. Then we have this Brandy video 2 weeks ago where she says, people say, I want to run the women's division. I never said that, and I never did. I mean, it's like a real weird change. in between those two things. Of course, that was in character, but like a weird ass thing to say in character.
Well, yeah, they've been very clumsy and fuzzy a lot of the time with, oh
Yes.
yeah, Cody's booking this match on Road to, and now he's, now Kenny, another executive vice president, is saying, who's making this match in his promo? That, an ongoing complaint. But anyway, go on.
Yes. Anyway, the good thing is Hikaru Shida should have beaten Britt. She did so. There are times, and we'll talk later about the Dark Order, but there are times when you have to see something through, and you have faith in a worker, and you're going to make sure that it's not going to be from lack of trying that they get over. But they seem to have understood and appreciated that Britt Baker is not ready for prime time, and they're moving on. Now, maybe they'll come back to her, and I'll be wrong, but I'm feeling good at this point. So bye-bye, Britt Baker.
Yeah, they're definitely going to come back to her. She's not retiring.
I think she quit, actually.
But yeah, right decision in this moment. I will say, and this is an ongoing point, is so presumably Shida is now the next challenger for Riho. They did just wrestle at All Out in Chicago, so hopefully they're not putting that match on All Out, just because I don't want to see all the same matches I saw last time.
You don't mean it All Out. You mean on Dynamite next week.
Well, right. But the last match was at All Out. I know what I said. But,
yeah.
Okay.
Mike, any thoughts on the end on Britt Baker's early retirement and subsequent death?
Jeez.
Hold on. Was I reading things wrong? I thought
No.
a really bad women's wrestler got fired from a wrestling promotion today.
Yeah.
Pretty anti-labor celebration
buddy.
there, Aaron.
Yeah.
The concussed public school teacher taking heavy shots.
A bad women's wrestler who recently got a concussion was fired. I mean, I just thought that was Britt. I thought she was gone.
Buddy.
If BJ is one of our listeners, you're going to have an angry DM in a minute.
Yeah, and if you remember the old BJ Whitmer T-shirt, that bump's going to be for you. But
WWE's the bump.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think I've been like with the hardest person on Britt Baker throughout the show, calling her someone with her personality and ring charisma of a plain rice cake. So I'm glad to see Hikaru Shida get this. I think that she had a really fun match against Big Swole in Charlotte on Dark, and she's shown that she could be someone of a bridge between the Joshi and the Western women. So I'm kind of okay with that. And unlike Nate, this is a match that I think I'd really love to see. And if it's going to happen in Chicago, that's cool. If it's going to happen in Champaign, that's cool too. So I'm all right with it. And I think it's just one of those things that I've been kind of battling this in my head over the last day. But we're all expecting Britt Baker to get better in the ring, right? Like consensus is, she needs ring time. She needs ring time. But the thing is, she's not a rookie. She's someone that has been wrestling now for upwards of 4 years. And even if you only have so many matches, after a certain time, you reinforce bad habits. It happens in everything. If you are someone who plays a musical instrument, you have a bad habit. When you start learning, if you don't learn to not do that, you're going to continue that bad habit. I have some bad habits at work that constantly in my back of my head, it's like, I shouldn't do this. This is not how I should edit this. I should keep a cleaner timeline, doing things like that. And who's to say if Britt Baker is going to get any better? And who's to say that there's going to be a situation where she gets the ring time people think she gets or needs to improve? So like, I think that what we see is what we get with her now. And it's just kind of just, grinning and bearing it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I made the point that they need to figure out a way to get a lot of these, greener talents more ring time, because one wrestling match a week, whether it be on Dark or whether it be on Dynamite, is not going to be enough for like a private party to get to the level of like a Young Bucks. And the same thing applies for like a Britt Baker. She's been in the business for a minute, but she's not, an old wrestler or anything. So you can unlearn those bad habits. I'm not going to throw in the towel on her already, but yeah, they need to work it out so they can send her on Stardom tours or something, and just really get hard reps on in-ring stuff. And we do see that AEW wrestlers are working other indies. We the upcoming House of Hardcore show has like Private Party on it, has Orange Cassidy on it, so they seem to be doing some allowing guys to work some outside dates for friendly indies, like we're hoping was the case and seems to be the case. The Strong Hearts guys are going to be on MLW, so that's great. Like Luchasaurus is working local LA shows and shit. So hopefully that'll be the case. Hopefully, they won't, Shimmer tapes for one weekend in a small market. Let Britt go and work Shimmer again. That's great. Get her a couple matches. It's not going to hurt her appeal or drawing ability on television. So they have to find the time to get all these people ring minutes, and hopefully they will.
Nate, you're being pretty positive here about Britt Baker. So now I need to hear you delete something.
My delete, I guess, is going to be, I don't know if I had, what did I? Okay, so I didn't really want to, but the thing that dragged on this show was basically the tag match between Private Party and Proud and Powerful. So I guess it would be that was the thing that dragged on this show. It didn't even lose me. Like, the down point of this match was during the ad break, and then when they came back from the ad break, Isaiah Cassidy did the clap spot for the hot tag, and the crowd was immediately back with it. So it just didn't quite connect. What you wanted in this match was the crowd to get so behind Private Party as the babyfaces in peril, with Proud and Powerful just beating the shit out of them. And the crowd just have such a groundswell of support for them that the crowd wants Private Party to win under any circumstances. So when Nick Jackson comes out and does the distraction finish, the crowd isn't like, oh, that was a cheap win. The crowd's like, yes, I wanted Private Party to win, and I didn't care how I got there. I just wanted them to overcome this. There's a tribute match to their, trainer and friend from House of Glory. So, you want to see the baby faces win in that context. And for whatever reason, the match just didn't get there. Again, maybe it's, I don't know how many matches of this length Private Party has worked in their career. Certainly they haven't worked many matches of this length on national television without, longtime veterans, the Young Bucks on the other side of the ring. So it just didn't get to the point that we wanted it to get to and reach that fever pitch where the crowd was desperate for the Private Party win. But, so that's my delete. Even then, it was fine.
It kind of came together. Like, it was a match that I had the same thing about them, that like the crowd want that you want out of a Private Party wasn't there enough to do this kind of beat down for them to get that huge hot tag. But by the time that they kind of got into it, it turned into something nice. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming for with that. My big deletion was Kenny now giving motivation and doing it in a very kind of hacky way. Like, how long have I been saying that Kenny?
Well, you can't delete something that was on the show, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna delete him actually giving motivation?
I'm gonna delete how he gave motivation.
Oh, okay.
That was that was a really like comedy promo that, like, yes, you finally gave justification that your whole downturn started because of Pac winning, and that completely set you off, and that's why everything's been like this. And then doing it around like a jokey bench press thing, like instead of just doing like his sit down promos that they've done very well with the Road Twos and then the Countdown specials, they did this instead. And it's just like, okay, Kenny, you know how to do an actual promo. Why are you making this into a joke when you're building up a big rematch? So that pissed me off.
I liked it because that's Kenny, and I like people being authentic and people being the truest versions of themselves that they can in a wrestling context. So he got over being weird and an anime villain and jokey and, a gamer guy on Twitter. So I'm not going to tell him to change now. I totally get, like, if you're going to do it seriously, then don't do the joke. But, the joke of it didn't take away from the serious part of it, in my opinion. So it didn't matter. I didn't mind it.
All right, here's what I'm deleting. It's the idea that the AEW women's division is really bad. Deleting. You're wrong. Anyone who thinks that is wrong. Here's why.
So again, this is you're not deleting something on the show. You're deleting a take from the outside.
Yes, right. I am.
So okay, I want to properly appreciate what delete is supposed to refer to. So I'm gonna reassess where I'm putting that.
This is what I'm deleting. Okay, the argument I've heard is, well, look at the matches, the women's matches that are on Dark. You can't put those on Dynamite. If you think that, you have no clue what Dark is supposed to be about. You don't understand the purpose of the show. They're putting women out there and giving them 15 to 20-minute matches so they can work in front of a major crowd without having to be on national TV. That's not the point. You can put Riho and Jamie Hayter and Shanna and Hikaru Shida and even Big Swole and even some of these people they brought in, Chris Statlander, Shazza McKenzie. You can put all those people on national TV in singles matches or tag matches and have excellent matches. You can do it with Nyla Rose. You can do it when they bring back Yuka Sakazaki. You can do it with Emi Sakura, who they've had. Even Allie has had reasonable TV matches in the past. So the idea that this is just some abomination, this division, is dumb. It's wild. It's like, here's what I'll say. I haven't heard it from anybody who actually watches women's wrestling. Haven't heard that take from any of those people. So anybody who knows what's going on and understands the deal here appreciates it. This is actually a really good women's division. And in fact, I think they should be giving them more time on TV than pretty much one singles match per week. But they're not doing that so far, but hopefully that's going to increase in the future.
So I'll back you up on that. The talent that they have, like the talent that they had in the Casino Battle Royale, like you're not going to find a better set of talent in the West. Like, Nicole Savoy, Mercedes Martinez, that's like the cream of the crop. Like there isn't better talent to go get at this point. So the talent is there. Maybe they're not making the best use of it by always featuring Britt Baker matches on the television. That, there's an argument there. But I'll call out in particular Dave Meltzer, who keeps saying, well, if you're not going to have stuff that's basically as good as the men, then you shouldn't have it on. Like, he's very much the women can be just as good as men, but if they're not just as good as men, you shouldn't put them on just for the sake of having women on the show. He's got a big stick up his ass about people with causes right now. People saying that women's wrestling is a cause and you have to have women's wrestling on the show because it advances women's wrestling. First of all, yes, you do, because the WWE has killed women's wrestling in the West for the last 50 years or whatever the fuck. And that's not fair to women. And second of all, it's a different standard. People hold it to a different standard and they're not looking at it and going, oh, well, Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida wasn't Will Ospreay versus Ricochet. So, there's no time for it on my television. It's a different thing entirely. It's, they bring a different appeal to wrestling and it attracts a different audience to wrestling than something like, Will Ospreay versus Ricochet. So first of all, yes, you do have to put women on the show just for the sake of having women on the show. That's a moral obligation. And second of all, the worst outcome of that is you're going to have a couple botched spots from Britt Baker or, an alley elbow isn't going to look super stiff. Who gives a fuck? Like there's so much more to appreciate about a wrestler and their character and the audience that they attract and all this shit that is just stupid to be mad about. So I'll back up on that.
Yeah, and the thing that really annoys me is that it's mostly in comparison to the NXT women's roster, as if it's, just the All Japan women's, which it's not. I mean, so I pulled it up here. Aaliyah, Bianca Belair, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Deonna Purrazzo, Io Shirai, Jessamine Duke, Marina Shafir, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that one right, Mia Yim, Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler, Tainara Conti, Tegan Knox, Vanessa Bourne, Xia Li. Other than like Io, sometimes Shayna, who are the super workers in this division?
Candice.
Not a super worker.
Yeah.
Candice is great, but she's not a super worker. That's why.
No, she is a super worker.
I mean, she's probably one of the top 5 biggest baby faces in wrestling over the last decade. So you don't have to be a super worker to be that over. So
no, I'm saying I love the act, but I'm saying that this argument is coming from people saying the matches are bad, and I'm saying Candice is not like a high work rate type.
I've seen Candice have great work rate matches with Sami Callihan, so I'd push back on that.
That number one, that sounds fake. Can never have happened.
Real, it's very real.
No, that's fake.
I'll find it for you. Granted, Sami Callihan is also having good matches with Tessa Blanchard right now, so maybe that's just his niche. But
my point is just that the idea that this roster blows away the AEW roster is insane.
It's one of the things also when you look at a lot of the women you've mentioned there, AB, pretty much the only one there. Like you talked about Shayna Baszler. She's been a prodigy in wrestling, but Io Shirai, she's 15 years pro. Candice LeRae, maybe close to 20 at this point. I mean, she started getting going in the early 2000s. And then when you look at the AEW's women's division, Britt Baker has had about 100 matches across 4 years. And then you have someone like Bea Priestley. When Bree's there, Bea's only really started wrestling on a larger stage over the last 2 years. Riho is probably the big normal vet out of that, and that's not even getting to people like Chris Statlander, who showed up, and I think she's like 2 years in. So a big thing there is that there's a wide disparity of like the top wrestlers in NXT and the women's division are often the ones that have had all this ring time. So if you're not great after 13 years, and I think I might be cursing myself with a reference that you're making about someone earlier about a wrestler who's been wrestling for 13 years and is still really bad and suffered a concussion recently and now might be looking for a new place, but that got a little long in the tooth. But my point is that you have these wrestlers, and also WWE has just been signing people up for 5 years now. So, I mean, when you get more people, odds are you're going to have better or super workers, at least their concept of super workers, just because you're hiring so many people. When you look at the AEW women's roster, I mean, there's 8 or 9 women actually signed full time, and there's people who are coming in and doing guest appearances or part-time work. So I think that's also just the law of averages and the laws of big sample sizes.
I'm just saying, as someone who watches women's wrestling, generally, I enjoy watching the women's wrestling on AEW. So it's not like I'm like, oh, this sucks. I want to go watch whatever. Stardom or Sendai Girls.
You say that, but most of the women's wrestling, AEW's women's wrestling, has been Britt Baker matches, which you do, Barry.
Yeah, she's bad.
So I think we can agree that they have not made the best use of their talented roster.
I agree, but there's plenty of good stuff here. I mean, a lot of stuff that I've enjoyed. All right, let's run down the results from this week, what we haven't gotten to yet. Nick Jackson defeated Phoenix in the opener. Phoenix won with some sort of move that Mike says is called the Animo or Black Fire Driver.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it called a lot of different things. It kind of is, it is a muscle buster, basically. It was like a spinning muscle buster, but I've heard it being called a lot of things, and we're just going to go spinning whatever. So, yeah, but that, as I said earlier, that match ruled.
I previously put over the announcers for not like hammering home the names of finishers, but now I'm like, can you tell me the name of the fucking move, please? I just never know what it's called.
Move names are cool. Move names are cool. They should emphasize move names.
I would appreciate a little more, at least. Hikaru Shida defeated Britt Baker with a running knee strike. Even I know that one.
They really had Hikaru beat the shit out of Britt at the end here. Like, Britt was kind of, I don't know if gassed or, she was selling that she was beat the shit because she got a bloody nose earlier in the match. But just the finishing sequence was really like, oh, Hikaru's just like clubbing her with knees at this point. I appreciated that.
Then we get a pre-tape video of some guy. He's like getting his glasses broken by bullies in the subway. I'm like, okay, where exactly is this going? And he sits down in a train car, and up on the side, he sees a video, and it's a recruiting video. It's like a cult type recruiting video. And we learn that it is for the Dark Order. Come join the Dark Order. So they're moving away from like the creeper type gimmick that's supposed to be like get you mad at them, and now they've found a little different way to go with this without abandoning what they were doing before.
I think that's exactly what I said they should do. Is they should just adjust and tweak the gimmick a little bit, change the ring gear, make it a little bit less cartoony, and they have the in-ring chops to get people behind them still. And that's exactly what they did, and everybody on Twitter loved it. So once again, I was right, and by agreeing with me, AEW was right.
Yeah, this owned. A couple of the people in this video are local Georgia area wrestlers. So I'm guessing it's something that was done by the folks over at DDP Yoga or the studios they've been using down there. But yeah, no, this ruled. I'm going to be interested to see how they try to meld this with what Dark Order is right now. Like, how are they going to get this across? Because this does feel like such a departure for how they were portraying them up to this point and how they've been kind of getting away from the creepy supervillains thing. So it'll be interesting to see how these two very distinct ideas intersect. And is it going to be more of like we're going to see like an Ekinar Church of Scientology thing, which would be really kind of funny and interesting? Or are they still going to have like this insidious, like evildoer thing about them? But yeah, no, this was a really well done video that I think took everyone by surprise at the same time.
Well, I think they did a good job starting to get us here with the Evil Uno promo the week before and the whole thing he had with Marco after that match. So I think they can thread this needle pretty easily without it seeming like too big of a change. Next up was the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royale. The idea here being 12 guys enter, the final 2 advance to a singles match to win a diamond ring. We were told on commentary we're going to learn more about that in the future, I think. So we'll know what the diamond ring is going to stand for, I suppose. But ultimately, Adam Page and MJF are your winners, defeating Jimmy Havoc, Jungle Boy, Marco Stunt, Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, Kip Sabian, Pentagon Jr., Sonny Kiss, Joey Janela, and Billy Gunn. The finish here was Jungle Boy was on the apron after having eliminated Kip Sabian, and MJF had, I guess, disappeared for part of the Battle Royale, and he jumped up and knocked MJF off the apron.
I'm going to say it. They gave too much offense, and they highlighted the ass man, Billy Ass, too much in this match. He was bigger than all the other guys. He threw all the other guys around. The other guys bounced off of him. He basically looked like a monster in this match. And I don't know why you do that to like some 50-year-old ex-WWE guy. I don't think that's a good use of your roster. I don't think that's what Sonny Kiss should be doing is, being a jobber for Billy Gunn. And a lot of people were jobbers to Billy Gunn in this match.
On the other hand, Billy Gunn was fucking over. So like it is something that if you are going to have him in this kind of match, you have to be careful about him. Like they've used him in the past in a better fashion. But yeah, no, that this was effective. And as we said earlier, Hangman Page is good at battle royals. That is his gimmick other than liking to cuss on TV. So it accomplished what I was trying to do. I mean, I don't rate battle royals, but this happened and I didn't feel like my time was wasted.
It was fun. The crowd enjoyed it, and the ethos of this promotion really is give, crowds things they will like and enjoy, which is good to do. But we're not going anywhere with Mr. Ass, the ass man, Billy Ass. So I just don't I don't care for that aspect of it. I do, this is a good spot for Orange to like get some highlight spots in because they don't know what to do with them otherwise. So that worked. And, they set up some stuff in here. Like I said, they set up they advanced the Pentagon and Christopher Daniels angle by having Christopher Daniels pose as Phoenix and eliminate Pentagon right at the beginning. But yeah, I don't know. Too much Billy Ass.
I think the whole Billy Gunn thing is saved by the Ass Man spot in which Sonny Kiss twerked in front of Billy Gunn, and Billy Gunn was mesmerized because, of course, Sonny Kiss is thicker than a Snickers. I think everybody knows that, and it worked out perfectly. So I don't know. I hear what you're saying, Nate, but I don't think anybody came out worse for the wear for their interactions with Billy Gunn.
No. Well, I don't know. You're kind of it was too reminiscent of the All-In Casino Battle Royale for me. It's like
it was good though.
No, it's fucking sucked ass.
The All-In Battle Royale?
I'm sorry, the Double or Nothing Casino Battle Royale.
Oh yeah, that sucked. The All-In one was great.
You had Jimmy Havoc in here with the staple gun. You had Billy Ass. You had, MJF and Hangman Page and were in there with like all, basically you made too many guys comedy acts and you put too many of your real serious top acts in with the comedy acts. Like MJF, who just made a huge heel and just had the focus of the entire last pay-per-view was about him turning heel, was in here, jobbing to Billy Ass.
Nate mentioned that we got some story progression here. We also had Sean Spears coming out and kind of taking out Joey Janela. So that's going to continue. And I guess that's it other than the Pentagon and Christopher Daniels thing. So
in the finish, we had Wardlow.
Oh, that's right.
Came out. Yeah.
That's right. Adam Page attacked MJF at the end here, and then Wardlow came out. But there was no interaction between Wardlow and Adam Page. Wardlow and MJF left. So I think we can expect maybe Wardlow involvement in this MJF Adam Page match that's going to be coming up next week. It will really officially be Wardlow Day.
It's always Wardlow Day, though.
This will be a special Wardlow Day.
Yes, it'll be a super special Wardlow Day. Yeah.
All right, then we get Chris Jericho out, and he's with Jake Hager, and he's out to make a special announcement as they teased on social media. He says, everybody in the crowd saw him throwing a tantrum after he lost to Scorpio Sky, and he had to pay for, everything that he destroyed. And he just wants the fans to know that he knows that it wasn't becoming of Le Champion to act that way. And then the bit here is he wants to say he's sorry, but he can't say the word sorry. So each time he holds the mic up to Jake Hager's mouth to say sorry, which was hilarious. And even Jake Hager thought so because he laughed basically throughout this interview. So that was good. And Jericho says he's going to get his thank you in Chicago next week. And he announces that there's going to be a Thanksgiving celebration. So SCU interrupts. We get Scorpio Sky. He's putting over Chris Jericho for apologizing. But he's saying that Chris Jericho forgot to mention that the reason he threw a tantrum was that not only did SCU defend their tag titles, but Scorpio Sky gave Chris Jericho his first AEW loss. So this is a good way of using the win-loss records, right? This is a good, of course, as I said last week, I think it was dumb that Scorpio Sky pinned Chris Jericho, but this is a good way of using what they're building up with the win-loss records.
So I want to distinguish two ideas there, and I think somebody, maybe it was Voices of Wrestling, did this already. This isn't a good use of the win-loss records, because the win-loss records is that big 5-4 or whatever, the 5-3. What this was a good use of was showing that wins and losses matter, and that because he got this win on Chris Jericho, he now gets to make a challenge for the title belt. But it wasn't even that. What they made it was he basically had to goad or trick Chris Jericho into giving him that. So they did a good job of setting the groundwork of, hey, here's his claim to the title match is he got this win. But because he's not in the ranking position with the win-loss record, he had to goad or trick Chris Jericho into giving the title challenge. So I thought that was well done. Having the big win-loss records is annoying because they rarely illustrate what they want us to get out of them. Like these rankings that they're putting out every Friday are like, hey, the number 2 team is 4-4. Like, you're just working against yourself by giving us these win-loss records that don't mesh or don't correlate with the ranking position that you're giving them. So just it's too much. But anyway, I like the segment a lot because it's what you want out of a babyface. It's the babyface being smarter and more clever and more charismatic than the heel. And the heel, very charismatic in Chris Jericho, but he's too up his own ass and, too blinded by his ego to see when the babyface is putting one over on him. That's just old school babyface shit. You don't see babyfaces doing that in the WWE. Maybe you see Hiroki Goto did it in, New Japan like last year. And it's very simple stuff. It's like the most basic reverse psychology segment ever. But you do it because it works. And you see that the babyface is getting one over on the heel and everybody's amused by it. When this segment started, I was like, oh, SCU is just, they're coming out here and they're not on the star level of Chris Jericho. Like, you can feel it. But I think Scorpio Sky is distinct from that just because he hasn't been everywhere for 15 years. Daniels and Kazarian are great, but they're sort of established quantities. I think it's great that they're putting Scorpio Sky in this spot to be elevated and make him a singles guy. And once again, I called it. So great work by AEW agreeing with me.
Yeah, this was a blast. I thought that it's something about Jericho being willing to make himself look like an idiot to get someone else over. And he's shown that consistently pretty much his entire time. Is the way to get to Chris Jericho is to deal with his ego. And I thought that everyone played their part very well here. I thought Hager was hilarious. Like, his first words that he said on TV were just sorry because Chris Jericho made him say it. And then I thought that Scorpio did a great job holding up his end of the deal, the promo. Like, we've seen so many people get eaten up in promos with legends before, and we've seen Chris Jericho like being willing to go back and forth and play off of each other. And I think that's something that further cements Chris Jericho's case as one of the best wrestlers in the world this year as a total package, not just in ring, but the entire presentation. I think that this was an unmitigated success. I mean, they've made these mid loop title matches 2 for 2. They've built both of them up incredibly well. So, I'm stoked for it. Like, neither of these guys are my favorite wrestlers, but I'm interested to see how they go because they've managed to, as Nate said, make Scorpio into that superstar for this match, which is the exact same thing that they've done with Darby Allin. So it's tremendous stuff.
Yeah, I think, if Irish Patrick suggested we take Jim Cornette out of the Hall of Fame, We should put Chris Jericho in the Hall of Fame again so he can just be in there twice because that's how good he is. And yeah, I just like the specific of him saying, oh, I got this big win and my high school crush called me up. Like, that's just a sort of specific idea that you don't get in a WWE promo. A WWE promo is all like, I came to, the fucking jack of the matter is I'm going to make an impact and I'm here to make myself known. And, it's just platitudes and maxims and the same fucking idea over and over again. And you don't get a little detail like Scorpio Sky is a young, good-looking man without any, family or marital obligations, and his old crush called him up, and he was fucking pumped about it. Like, you just don't get that sort of character in the other company.
So after Scorpio kind of goads Jericho into challenging him to wrestle next week in Chicago and putting the title on the line, Scorpio says he's going to turn Le Champion into Le Bitch.
Huge. We love swearing.
We love gendered insults. So,
yeah, I did. Okay. Well, you're right. It's a gendered insult. Yeah. I gave up on not saying bitch anymore because it's too powerful a word.
It's powerful. It is gendered.
And also, if you don't say bitch, then you're kind of Common, the rapper. That was his thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
With AI, we won't have to use gendered insults anymore.
With AI, we won't have to use gendered insults anymore.
Really outing yourself as not an NBA watcher because...
Allen Iverson?
No, last season, the whole, every other commercial was Common. It was like from Microsoft or something. And the first line is with AI. And it's just fucking miserable.
I've seen this commercial. Okay.
Yeah, so Jericho attacks. Proud and Powerful come out to help. We get Michael Nakazawa and Brandon Cutler trying to save the day, which was very funny. And Jericho ultimately hits Scorpio with the Judas effect. And then
great looking Judas effect.
What's that?
Great looking Judas effect.
Yeah, it was very good. Marco Stunt comes out. Jericho just demolishes him. Jungle Boy comes out to a huge pop. I was a little bummed that Jericho just kind of got rid of him. But it was built for Luchasaurus to come out, clears the ring other than Jake Hager. They face off, and the crowd went nuts for this.
So they did. They set all this up a little bit during the ad break, and if you didn't have the Fight TV feed, then you probably didn't see this. And I did have the Fight TV feed, and I couldn't hear this even. So they only halfway did it. But before Jericho came out, he and Hager were backstage. They walked by the librarians, and the librarians were reading a bunch of dinosaur books. And Jericho made fun of the dinosaur books. And then he went on down the hall, and Brandon Cutler was looking at some footage he shot from BTE with Marco Stunt there. And Jericho made fun of Marco Stunt and called him a child and was like, hey, why is your child got no shirt on? Put a shirt on this child, etc. It was pretty funny, but you couldn't really hear it. So they did set up, this is why Marco Stunt came out to make the save for SCU, one presumes, even though those teams were just wrestling pretty recently. And then I think the pop for Jungle Boy, I feel like he came out with Luchasaurus and we just didn't see it because Luchasaurus probably walked to the ring and got there slowly because we didn't hear a separate Luchasaurus pop, right?
I don't know. I thought Luchasaurus got another pop.
I feel like Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy came out together, got the big pop. Jungle Boy ran to the ring. Luchasaurus walked to the ring, and that's why we only got the one pop for it. That's my take.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, Luchasaurus is the now guy. Jungle Boy is a long-term play, so it's no big deal.
Amen.
All right, then Luchasaurus squashes Peter Avalon, finishes him off with the Extinction. Big shouts to Mike Spears for figuring out the name of that move. Nothing really here, just, Luchasaurus is back, and he got a win to get going. Proud and Powerful defeated Private Party. We talked about that. Isaiah Cassidy pinned Santana after Gin and Juice. This did end with a distraction finish. Nick came out with the sock full of baseballs. And so that, I hated that. It's the WWS booking we talked about last week. Sammy Guevara came out and attacked Nick Jackson. But Dustin Rhodes makes the save and knocks out Sammy with the cast with his broken forearm.
Love a loaded cast.
Love a Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara feud in 2019. Who would have imagined? I love it.
Also love that Dustin got a cast put on his non-broken arm just to do this spot.
Did you notice it falling apart in the ring when he started stalking him? Yeah, no, it was obviously not a full cast. This isn't like Bob Orton Jr. Getting fresh casts made. But yeah, no, it's wild.
Gonna have to check out the Sammy vlog this week because when Sammy made his initial attack, he was vlogging the whole time. Just to great gimmick to set him apart is like the fucking, snide little, I don't even know, Gen Z YouTuber guy or whatever. That's just a very current gimmick, and they pay it off because he puts it on his vlog and shit. It's going to be fun to watch.
Then we got the Kenny pre-tape that Mike was talking about earlier. He's bench pressing. We can't see the bar, right? Or we can just see the bar. We can't see the outside. And he's needing help on the last rep. And then when the camera comes down, we see that it's 55 pounds on the bar. Pretty funny. Michael Nakazawa spotting for him. Kenny says he's happy to be getting a chance to talk to the fans, even though he's not known as a promo guy. That had to be a rib at somebody, but I didn't really, I thought it was kind of funny.
I don't think he is known as a promo guy. Nobody likes his promos.
Yeah, but I think Kenny thinks he's good at promos.
Maybe.
I don't know. Just a thought.
I mean, people like him, but they don't like his promos because he goes all anime villainous stuff. It worked for his context. Again, it all works for him. This is obviously what he wants to be doing, is doing these little jokes. So I'd say let him do what he wants, because he has not steered himself wrong to this point. He's only made himself the biggest star to be grown outside the WWE in a generation. So I'm not going to tell him he's wrong.
Kenny's thing is he can do whatever he wants if he has the high-level matches that people want. So it's harder in this promotion because they don't have all those levels of workers that he would have in New Japan, for example. But if he has mediocre matches and does this stuff, I think there's a possibility that he's not going to rise to the level of star that we kind of thought coming in.
Good take. I like it. That's right. I complimented your take. What do you think about that? Yeah. Well, you stepped it up, so
gonna have a big head for 3-4 weeks on this one.
It's like a fucking Oatgan fave right there.
That is like an Oatgan fave. I got an Oatgan reply yesterday, and I was like, it blew me away for a minute.
Time.
Okay, so Kenny says it only took one instance for Pac to beat him and send him into a tailspin, but now he's going to hit the restart button. And he goes back and tells Nakazawa to double the weight, but then he says, no, just one side. Very funny. I thought it was funny anyway.
I thought it was funny. I don't mind that, he made a joke of it, because it was clear that he set it up like a joke. He was going to say a serious thing, and then he was going to give a little punchline at the end. I thought it was fun.
It was good. It's a lot of the stuff he's tried to do in AEW being funny has not hit, but this was funny. I laughed at it.
Just made it a little bit simpler.
Yes. In the main event, Jon Moxley defeating Darby Allin with a super paradigm shift, which we talked about earlier, and started off with a video of Darby with the Mox body bag, even with the orange paint on the body bag, which I liked. And there's not much more to say about this. It was an excellent match.
Where do you think that concert was that they shot the body bag crowd surfing at?
Man,
seemed like New York, maybe like a Webster Hall or something.
Where's
Darby
live? Based?
Where does he live? I don't know.
Like
East Coast.
Yeah, I don't know where he's based out of.
Well, for a while he was based out of his car, so that hard to lock down. Shout out to Evolve, which we'll discuss on the Patreon at some point here.
What I loved in the Observer this week, Meltzer was like, Darby Allin commented that he probably wouldn't be given much to do if he were in WWE now. When Darby's quote was, he'd be jerking off in a boiler room.
Hey, Darby, that got Mick Foley over. That's fucking good shit, Darby.
Oh, what a line.
That actually did get Nick Foley over, was the Mankind character. Jerking off in a boiler room.
All right, well, that's...
Mike, any insight on where Darby Allin is located out of, where he bought his new house?
I'm guessing, because I know that Priscilla Kelly was based in Georgia for a while. So,
East Coast.
Yeah, definitely East Coast. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in Georgia. If so, I need to get back out my skateboard and go hunt down Darby and hang out. I feel
that makes sense, because the DDP yoga,
right?
That's all based out of Georgia, so it makes sense for that to be a little home base.
Yeah, no, I also like the idea, two of them having a house in Cobb County, Georgia, where it's just a crazy neocon area, and just how funny that would be. That moving in next door to you is a crust punk and Priscilla Kelly doing goth things. It's just that seems like that would be a wild new neighbors to have.
Yeah.
When are we gonna get Priscilla Kelly in this promotion?
Has to happen.
Yeah,
I don't know what's the hold up here.
Tony, I know you're listening. Bring in TPK. Come on. All right, AEW Dark for this week. This is what they recorded. Kenny Omega defended the AAA Mega Championship against Jack Evans. Trent taking on Pentagon Jr. What a match. Big Swole versus Shanna. And an interesting note I saw this week, according to an interview with Luis Salvador of Wrestling.pt, Shanna was actually planning to retire before Kenny called her and offered her a job with AEW. So,
Oh, did you see that? Because I retweeted it.
yes, that's exactly why I saw it. When I'm putting these notes together, I just go through our feed and find the links. Yeah, that's what I do. Awesome Kong is taking on Leva Bates. So that's your Dark for this week. And Mike and I will be breaking down that episode of Dark next week on AEW Light. Usually comes out, I don't know, 10:30 or 11 on Wednesday morning. So we'll see you there.
If you're traveling on Wednesday for American of Thanksgiving, you'll have it in your feed.
Great job, Mike.
And hey, if you're already subscribing, you'll get another show there as well. This is what we're called the hard sell, guys.
That's right. Yeah, see, if you are traveling on Wednesday, it's a great time to subscribe. You'll get our whole back catalog for this month, which is enough shows to get you most places in the continental U.S. So drive away while you listen to the Everything Elite Boys. All right.
Yeah.
Next week in Chicago on Thanksgiving Eve, we're going to get Chris Jericho versus Scorpio Sky for the AEW World Title, Kenny Omega versus Pac, MJF versus Adam Page, and Cody makes his return. Mike and I will also be previewing that and anything else that's announced next Wednesday on Light. But anything that stands out, Nate, for you for the 11/27 show, I know you're going to be there.
Needs a Jon Moxley match. They owe Chicago a Jon Moxley match.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that seems to be like the big name to kind of push there, especially considering what all is going on in Chicago and wrestling over the week. You kind of need to have a Jon Moxley match in there.
Have going with one of my normie friends, going with two normie friends, one of whom I went to the last show with, All Out. And he was somebody I literally brought into AEW because he was a Jon Moxley fan from the brief period that the Shield was hot, and then he was a hot singles act, and the WWE ruined him. And he was like, yeah, I get to see fucking Moxley versus Omega. That kicks ass. So, I don't want to be a bad host. When you have somebody over and you want to keep them entertained at your home because you're the host. That's how I feel when I bring normies into wrestling. You're like, I want this to be good. Don't want this to be WWE. And you sit down and you're embarrassed by having other people watch it with you. So I want a Jon Moxley match. So again, Tony.
Hoping for a nice women's match on this show, but I'm hoping it's not Riho versus Shida. Let's spread that out. I mean, they got a lot of time until, probably February for the next pay-per-view. So let's spread out some Riho title shots here. And I'd like to see Shida in a few weeks, but we can do something else cool here. Some other notes before we get out of here. Full Gear. We got the business returns from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. This might have already been out, but 8,200 tickets sold. That's strong. I mean, that's a great result. It wasn't a very hot crowd. I mean, I guess they said it wasn't mic'd very well, but it didn't sound good on TV. But that's a good number of tickets sold.
I do want to, we do a lot of ratings talk, like attendance talk. AEW has best of the best Ring of Honor attendance, multiple times now. Mm-hmm. They've quadrupled the best TNA attendance multiple times now, probably. Just like worth keeping in mind, like, oh, they actually draw and sell a lot of tickets to these shows. So even if they're not getting that 1.5 million they got in the first week of television, they're making money on everybody that attends these shows.
Yeah.
So they're doing fine.
Yeah, that's something that's really worth saying. I remember that, I think it was at the TK interview with Chris Van Vliet, I want to say it was, where he said about that they're hoping for 4,500 to 6,000 tickets. And the only show, to my knowledge, that didn't exceed that was Charlotte. So, I mean, they're making money on everything. So, I mean, this is why we always harp on ratings, because these are their revenue drivers. If you want to have a competition with WWE, you have to have a healthy competition. And this is evidence of them being the healthy competition that, as Nate said, TNA and Ring of Honor never were. So this is important. So I know a lot of people kind of hand wave this kind of talk, but it's important stuff to see that they've kept up this momentum, even though it started to slip back a little bit. Even 8,200 for Baltimore is a good number for them.
Right. Very easy to forget that like 2 years ago, it was unheard of, the idea of somebody doing a 10,000 seat show. It's like, oh yeah, no, they did 8,200. Just that's their quarterly thing now.
It's also worth remembering that this is a brand new company. Like, they have plenty of time to build up their business. So we got the pay-per-view buys at or slightly below 100,000, basically the same as All Out. The digital buys were basically the same as the first 2 shows that they've done, that they did on BR Live. And there was some disappointment about that. I mean, you'd always like to see them improving, I suppose. But Dave pointed out in The Observer last week that it took WCW about 5 months of consistent television before they started seeing an increase in their pay-per-view buys. So, long game here.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning that this was a tough night for Full Gear as the rematch between, can't believe I'm saying this, Logan Paul and KSI, which sold 1 million buys its first time, was happening. So I don't think this is negative. Like, it's not as encouraging as you want, but as Dave said, like, it takes time to build momentum, like to make the first initial purchase from your TV, from like your new TV audience. Like, what this tells me is that they're maintaining their pretty strong about 100,000 fans. I'm willing to guess that it's probably closer to like 120,000 when you include the people that go to each of these big shows, that like they haven't scared off like their core market. So that's pretty solid stuff.
I do want to address any potential subtweeters who might think that we're being too positive on AEW on this episode. I just want to remind you, Mike did make a very pointed tweet about the late start to AEW Dark this week. So, it's not all sunshine and roses over here.
Oh, I wasn't going to talk about that. Can I go off for a minute? Can I?
I think you already did.
Oh, no, it is ridiculous. I know people did pushback to me. I have set up stuff to set up here. Like, I know that like streaming, it can be somewhat difficult, but this isn't something that if you're someone who's hired to do this for a living, like, you can't have this down. Like, this is not rocket science to have your video uploaded, which was apparently might have been the issue for the 1-2 weeks ago, or just have it set up to start playing at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's Mickey Mouse bullshit. It's minor league stuff. And maybe you should reassess all these people that you've brought in from Ring of Honor that you were friends with, because it seems like that, at least in some parts of it, that social media / digital has been really dropping the ball in a lot of ways that you shouldn't be having at a promotion that's trying to run at this level. It's unexcusable. Like, all these like streaming things miss me with that. You can't do this.
That's for all the subtweeters out there. Says we're co-opted, we're on the take. Save it, subtweeters. I will say, I don't care that it was 10 minutes late or whatever. I do care about all the typos because I was a copy editor. Fucking way too many typos on graphics and match announcements and shit. Tighten that shit up. All right.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. We've been negative on this show. So
I was just joshing. I was just trying to take a shot at a friend of the show here to close this out.
I appreciate it. Tony Khan, he's posting, folks. He's doing posts. You got to love it. So CM Punk, who I guess we can now talk about again on this show because he has reappeared in wrestling. So we're not going to make it a regular thing because he's gone back to WWE because, well, he's someone who actually never believed any of the things he's ever said. So now we see him back at WWE backstage. He tweets that no one is going to be safe from his lukewarm, shitty takes on that show. And he tags Tony Khan, of all people. And Tony Khan responds, "No one's safe. Sounds like a plane full of wrestlers in Saudi Arabia." Just a great burn. You got to love it.
So on the topic of CM Punk, since the topic's been broached, I saw some people getting a lot of faves and retweets for saying that Jon Moxley did everything that CM Punk said he would do. And you're right, but I just want to say that I had that take first. When Jon Moxley first debuted, I said they don't need CM Punk anymore because they already got CM Punk, but better. So again, I'm too right on this show this week. I don't know how that happened. It's just one correct take after the other.
Yeah, you just want to be recognized for how you're on your best take week or best take month ever. I understand that.
I'm going to say best take year.
Okay.
I had the Turner thing before anybody else. Had the Jon Moxley thing. So the guy who told me Jon Moxley was coming in, by the way, was TJ Hawk. But so I hadn't revealed that previously. So good post by Tony. So Randy Orton came back at him, and then Tony hit him with the line about you got it. All right.
Yeah, Tony absolutely murked Randy Orton. He said, you usually only tag me when you're trying to create leverage, and just throws in at the end that also you said the N-word on a Twitch stream.
So that was, I just feel like there's so many things you could hit Randy for. I don't know if that's the one I would have picked.
It's the one you have the most
It seems
recent
like the
receipt.
worst. Maybe it's the most recent. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's on Twitch, and Twitch saves everything. So like you have that receipt to drop on it. So it makes it
very funny.
The thing that gets me is Randy Orton, and of course, like picking things like Shad Khan. You could have picked some very obvious things that we've talked about on the show before that he's done, such as Trump inauguration money and then now attacking Trump. Like there are things you could get Shad Khan for.
You can't do that one because Randy Orton agrees with that. He wants to donate to Trump.
Yeah,
so
that's fair. That's fair. But yeah, gosh, I mean, here's the thing about social media and Twitter. I did tweet this earlier this week that involves things. You could tell people who have grinded their time, honed their skills, and learned their craft, forging it on the days of message boards, and people who think they can just post. TK has a poster's mentality, and as we've seen, neither CM Punk, go back to your shitty ass live journal from 2005. Where you talk about where you talk about Harley Race being drunk and offensive, and then what do my knuckles say? And Randy, go back to gaming and vaping. I mean, those are your two favorite things, and maybe like don't stream since you're a racist shithead. Don't stream your shit. So yeah,
you can't outpost Tony. That's all. I mean, that's just
posters are going to post.
He was forged in the fires of the board. And
yeah,
who knows?
I mean,
who knows where else? Posting on fucking Game Facts, probably.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know Champagne. I know Champagne. I know who's posting where.
I just love that this is this is like the guy running the company, and he's just posting this shit. It's just amazing.
He's just ethering people.
A lot of people were like, "Oh, the people that should really never post are like the billionaire executives." No, they should definitely post. It's very funny.
It's very funny. I mean, if they fuck up, you make fun of them back. And if you're able to get a couple good burns, you get those burns. You can tell that Tony was on Game Facts and Death Valley Driver.
The thing about Tony is that that if you reply to him, like he's reading that shit because he just can't take not reading his mentions.
Yeah, no, there's a strategic element to having people think you don't read what you say in ats or whatever else. And, that can be effective. Yeah, and Tony does not subscribe to that belief because Tony will DM you. Tony will at you back. He'll throw an RT on you, so people know that if they at him, they're going to get his attention. That's dangerous.
Very dangerous.
But again, if you're the very successful son of a billionaire, probably not losing a lot of sleep about it.
He's got to have something to do on his transatlantic flights
in between his fake jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's enough. I think we can cover the other stuff I had on here we can hit that another week. So no big deal. Just make sure you subscribed. Maybe we'll drop some hot takes. I mean, Nate already said I did a good take today, so maybe I'll do some more good takes on Twitter. You can find us at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. That's Fuji with two eyes, like Don Fuji. Make sure you subscribed, you're rating and reviewing, and go over to patreon.com/everythingelite. Check out what we've been offering there so far. I think at the end of the month, we're going to throw a little bonus show, an extra bonus show on the $3 tier that you can try out if you want to. But go ahead and subscribe and get Mike's upcoming Breaking Strong Hearts episode, which I'm really excited about, and I think everybody should be. So I think that's it. Mike.
I was going to say before we go, just wanted to drop a quick plug to our friend TJ Hawk's fundraiser that he's doing right now. I know I've tweeted a bunch about it. It's to a good cause. I'll probably drop a link in the show notes about it. It's for students in the Bronx, I believe, getting a library. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, it's basically like a lot of his students basically are just turned off to certain types of like trying to certain things to read. And so he's trying to build a library of stuff that makes them excited to read and helps them get their reading levels up to where they need to be. So I've donated to it. I think everybody should. And there'll be a link in the show notes, or you can check probably any of our Twitter accounts.
It's at fake TJ Hawk, HAWKE. And yeah, he gave me that good scoop. So you can pay him back with a donation to get some people excited about reading. It's mostly comics. Everybody likes comics.
Yeah. Our listeners are comic fans. So just help out. All right. That's it for Mike. For Nate, I'm Aaron. We'll see you next week.